Hey y'all, Steve here, back with ya. And lo and behold, I just got done. Last time I looked at my, last looked at my Google thread, or whatever you want to call it, my Google feed, that's what I'm going for. And I popped it open a couple hours after I last looked up, and there was a bullshit article about Bernie. Boom! We got some fresh meat, courtesy of Fox News, the most reliable news source in the world. Why contain it to just America? This got posted just a couple hours ago. Jean Allen. Is it Jean or Jean Allen? We are at war. The battleground is the classroom. And Bernie Sanders just doesn't get it. Well, apparently, we haven't gotten it for a while, because our educational system was already shitty long before Trump took over, and he put that numbnuts moron Betsy DeVos in charge, who can't even answer the most basic questions. Every question she gets asked, she's like, oh yeah, well, it's like, is somebody tickling your throat? What's wrong with you? I can make all the fun in the world of her I want, because she's fucking the future of our children, so she's free to attack as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let's dive in, because now we got another source, Fox News. And now we're talking about how Bernie's going to be bad for our educational system. I don't know if I've really gone through an article, but I think I'm making it a little bit easy on myself by going after one that's posted on Fox News. I shouldn't get too cocky, because there might be something in here that I either don't know the answer to, or will just be end up tongue-tied about, well, because I probably won't necessarily know whether something is right or wrong. That makes me sound completely uninformed, but I'm trying to analyze the way our news sources are representing Bernie Sanders. Anyway, let's dive into this thing. Our nation is at war. I'm not talking about an external battle. We are in a war for our nation, our national security, and its future. The battleground, the classroom. So apparently our educational system, our schools are a national security problem now. Must be all them illegal immigrants running around trying to get educated. That wasn't even a fun joke to make. Our nation's education system is failing. Yeah, no shit, because we have numbnuts running it. That's the second time I've used numbnuts, and I've only been recording for not even 3 minutes. Our nation's education system is failing, and it's time to treat the problem as seriously as we would any external attack. Which means I guess we drop bombs on our elementary schools, and if that doesn't work, we start dropping them on the middle schools, and if that doesn't work, high schools. Not the colleges, though, because those are money mills. All right, you start bombing colleges, where are we going to get all that extra money that we're going to scam off young people? According to the nation's report card, 2/3 of our nation's 8th grade students are below proficiency in math. So was I, probably. More than 3/4 are below proficiency in civics. I always love the term civics, because you go in to your first civics class, and you're like, what the hell am I walking into? That should frighten every American. Yeah, again, we've been under a Republican presidency, a Republican government, essentially, for pushing 3 years now, 2.5 years. So, when are we going to get to Bernie? Yet despite the grave state of our nation's schools, people like Bernie Sanders are trying to kill a successful and popular public school option and restrict our educational system to only one vision of education, standing in the way of opportunity for more students in the name of conformity. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is a master of conformity. That's why he's like every other candidate running. All right, let's dive on here. Let's see what this person has to say. As part of his latest presidential campaign, Sanders has proposed a moratorium on federal funding for public charter schools. That makes no sense. Okay. Charter schools are one of the best weapons we have to educate children, particularly poor or minority children. Okay, so it says proposed a moratorium, and it's underlined like there's an article to click on. Studies from the University of Arkansas and many other institutions show that charter schools regularly outperform better than their public counterparts with less funding. Sanders' tirades about charter transparency, which of course exists, well then why are you calling it a tirade? Regulation, which charters have plenty of, I'll believe that when I see it, and accountability, which is the very essence of charters, are both misinformed and counterproductive. So is he? See, I don't know at this point if they're saying he's just against charter schools or if he just is struggling trusting them because he feels like they're not transparent and regulated enough. And I know charter schools definitely have positives. I'm wondering if they're going to address exactly whether that means Sanders doesn't like charter schools or if he's just trying to make them more effective. There's a big, bold quote, and I don't know if this is a quote from Bernie or if this is just what the writer of the article is saying, because it doesn't say who's saying it, but it's big font, bigger than the rest of the font in the article, so obviously they want you to see it. That I said earlier, it says, charter schools are one of the best weapons we have to educate children, particularly poor or minority children. I don't know if that seems like a pro-charter school comment, but it doesn't say who's saying that. It references studies from the University of Arkansas below it, which is interesting considering Arkansas. I understand it's the University of Arkansas, but Arkansas is one of the most poorest scoring educational states in the country and has been for a long time, especially when good old Bill Clinton was running things there. Yeah, this is a very scattered article. Let's just proceed because I'm trying to put all the pieces together. More importantly, Sanders' proposal will disempower parents. New education options have seen an explosion of growth in the last 2 decades, and not because they've been foisted on communities and children by federal bureaucrats. It's because parents in cities around the country have demanded the option to send their children to innovative, high-quality schools. Just look at the black community. Oh, great, yeah, Fox News is going to start talking about looking at the black community. Yeah, Fox News, how about you look at the black community? Okay, just look at the black community, one of the most underserved populations in America. Funny, hearing Fox News actually, somebody for Fox News actually admit that. 86%, they actually wrote the number 86, even though it's the start of a sentence, so that shows where this person's writing skills are at. I'm sorry, that was very condescending, but I mean, if you want to be believed, you gotta write properly. Anyway, 86% of black parents support having more options in public education, including traditional public schools and charters. But many of those parents are hindered by the lack of available charter schools or by long wait lists. Here's another thing that's in big font. The message has been clear and consistent. Parents want more options, not fewer. Well, it's important to mention here, options are good, obviously. But it's important to realize one of the main reasons parents want options is because our standard public school system all across the country is failing us so miserably. Again, that's an argument for things like charter schools. But yeah, we just need, I don't know if they're going to reference that. Why is it that there's such a need for these other, and obviously there's various reasons why you would want alternatives. Do you have a child who struggles paying attention in class? Do they have ADHD? Do they have any number of things? Do they have auditory processing issues, which my girlfriend has? It's where they have a hard time understanding when things are explained to them. They respond much better to visual representation, and maybe the public school isn't providing that to them. Do you have students that are excelling in certain ways and maybe they need more challenging courses? Do they need classes that just aren't available at their public high school? So they need a special. I know when I was in high school, we had a place, there was the Sabin Skills Center, which had all these classes that you couldn't get at your regular high school. They teach you engineering and marketing. I took media communications classes there. And then across the street, they converted an old middle school to the Sabin Schellenberg Center, which was really just kind of an extension of Sabin to make space for more classes and things like that. So for the people that were in my school district going to high school, that was where we could take more classes beyond what our school could offer. Now, obviously, those are, just a few reasons why you would want alternatives to just your general public school. Maybe your child really needs it. Maybe their education level's at a certain level. Maybe their ability to focus is different. It's greater or weaker than most children their age. A lot of reasons. But now let's say, for the moment, that Bernie Sanders is trying to create kind of just one. And again, they're not really explaining exactly what Bernie's objective is, and for this article to be taken seriously, they need to address that. They need to say exactly what he's planning on doing and not just say, this is important and Bernie's like, sort of not doing that or doesn't want that. Because it seems like they're implying that they want, that he wants all of school to just be like one thing. Like he just wants it to be a public school system or just a privatized school system. Now, if that is the case, is it his objective then? I'm trying to piece this thought process together while I'm saying it. I just kind of want to know what's, get all these pieces together. And like, is Bernie's objective to have one school system, but have it be all-inclusive? So there are extensions. There are, things connected to that school system that will provide a different course to go if your child is struggling where they're at. That you will provide better overall funding to the school system to allow schools to expand, both structurally and in just the general, curriculum and all of that. So that if you want these certain classes, these certain, this and that, things that maybe aren't necessarily available at your regular school, you can still get that. If that's the case, then Bernie isn't really just destroying all these other systems. He's just trying to make them all inclusive under kind of one umbrella. Now, I don't know if that is better than if that is going to be better than what we have going, or if it's going to prove to not work. And again, that's just kind of what I'm taking away from this article so far. So if that is the case, it's important to understand that it seems like Fox is trying, and again, I'm going to finish the article. I'm not just going to draw all my presumptions now. I don't even think I'm quite halfway through, but it seems like they're trying again to misrepresent Bernie by not really addressing exactly what he's calling for. They're doing it in very vague terms so far. So anyway, I'm going to continue now. Education should not be about prioritizing one learning environment over another. Every asset is important in the battle, and our children can't afford for us to play favorites. Should explain that to the current government. And yet powerful interest groups like teachers' unions want us to believe that there's want us to believe that there's only one way to educate students, that a monolithic, top-down, centrally controlled system is superior for every student, and that's simply not the case. Okay, so now they're criticizing teachers' unions, which I don't necessarily trust teaching unions, but they're not even attacking Bernie now. In fact, they're saying that Bernie is in the same league with people that are overlooking the teachers' union. So I don't know. I'm interested where they're going with this. As Johns Hopkins professor Ashley Berner argues in her path-breaking study, I've never heard it referred to as path-breaking, I've heard groundbreaking, of other countries, pluralism in education works. Countries that sponsor and support a wide array of educational options show not only equality of opportunity, but equality of results. Here's another thing in bigger font. The U.S. is by nature a pluralistic country, and yet some behave, including Sanders, as if we should live in a dictatorship when it comes to education. This thing's already starting to lose me. I very highly doubt that Bernie's objective is to have an educational system like a dictatorship, or like it is now, where it's just getting more and more defunded and just more and more screwed. Giving kids less and less chances, not preparing them for college where they're going to have to take out a bunch of money. But we are not. We're a pluralistic nation with thousands of different peoples, cultures, and habits. Oh, preach, girl. Our education system should mirror the diversity that is America's wealth and hallmark. So are they comparing the fact that we have like a melting pot and we have like racial and gender differences and all these differences between people? Are they correlating that to just having a mess of different school types? Like, again, I'm certainly not advocating against the idea of multiple different school types, but I feel like this is a lot of pandering. We have fought to keep our nation the land of opportunity, and we must fight to ensure that opportunity exists in every venue, most notably in education. Yeah, I'm sure Bernie Sanders is at the top of the list of people that are trying to quash the education of our young. Let's see. The polar opposites of him are in control right now, and they're completely murdering our Department of Education, and thus murdering the future of these children. Yeah, I'm sure Bernie Sanders, who's the only one of few advocates who's really fighting to make college affordable, I'm sure he's fighting tooth and nail for that just so he can send a bunch of robot morons who have all learned the same thing and not enough to go into that affordable college system so we can all be a bunch of idiots. The last thing Bernie Sanders wants is for all of us to come out a bunch of idiots. He wants us to grow and to be educated so that the system we're currently stuck in doesn't keep happening because people are smarter and they actually pay attention to who they're voting for. So this whole paragraph is just a bunch of Fox News patriotic horse shit. Like, I'm getting annoyed. And again, they're not really addressing directly in detail what Bernie is advocating for. It's just kind of loosely saying, we need this and Bernie doesn't want it. Well, give me something here. To win the war for education excellence, we cannot use only one type of weapon. Oh my God, enough with the fucking war metaphors. We must put all of our assets on the battlefield, there's another one, supporting any education program or organization that communities, parents, and educators can develop. And I don't think Bernie would be against that. He's all about people being all-inclusive. If the opponents of choice and educational progress had their way, our nation's students will not have that future. The battle we wage are for them. Who are yours for, Senator? Is that really the end of the article? That's the end of the article. Okay. So this is this is another one where, I don't want to just come out and say, yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, screw you. Bernie would never do that. This article doesn't even break down what Sanders says he wants to do. It just loosely says that Bernie is anti-charter schools and he wants us to have apparently just one system, just, one type of schooling. And honestly, I'm a little, I look at lots of alternative school types as kind of like charities. Like, do we really know how legit these really are? The article says that, things like charter schools, they all have transparency and they all communicate well and all that. I don't believe that for a second, that they just all are like that. They're all completely forthcoming. I like the concept of charter schools. I certainly don't think we should just get rid of them. There's already a lot of push for that happening, and honestly, I haven't heard Bernie related to any of that. I know, like, in the state of Oregon, I think they're trying to, or there's like some bill or some proposition that they're trying to push forward to maybe get rid of that, and get rid of those options. Now, I have to be direct and honest and say I have not heard Bernie specifically talking about this, and maybe I need to go, add on to when I'm finished talking here, I need to actually go and look up specifically what Bernie's plan is, what he's advocating in terms of, the education of our children in the future, so I can come back and better address. And I thought that might happen. But regardless of what I stumble onto in terms of looking up what Bernie's plan is, this article, if you can even call that, it's more just a poorly written, one-sided opinion piece. It doesn't address in any remote detail one element of what Bernie has planned for our Department of Education, how our education is going to move forward. In fact, the matter is, he can't really fuck it up any more than it already is. I mean, I'm frightened for our children right now. I don't even want to imagine what schooling is how schooling is right now compared to when I was, like in high school, start of the 2000s. And the system wasn't that great then. And it's a lot worse now. Now, obviously, it's not an honest to goodness justification to say, oh, well, if Bernie messes with the system a lot, and doesn't do really great things for it, he still couldn't make it any worse than Trump did, because then you're just playing that game of justifying something the candidate you want to believe in by attacking a candidate that you know you hate, so it's easy to attack him. It's like if people are going to criticize Obama's presidency, and then a Democrat will be like, oh, he's better than Bush, he's better than Trump. Well, that doesn't automatically mean that he was a great president. That's not even an argument. All right? A bunch of people, Hillary would have been better than Trump. Yeah, probably. She still would have been a shit president. She still is less than what we need and less than what we should be aspiring for. So, I mean, here I am with more questions than answers from an article that, was so hard-hitting. It just knocked Bernie Sanders right to the floor. But I'm left with more questions than answers now. Because I came in, I was hoping at least they would mildly address his actual plan, but it's just, hey, we should have charter schools, we need charter schools, we need these extra options, which kind of almost makes me nervous, considering the fact that this is someone writing and posting on Fox News, like Fox News' website, and they're advocating that hard for this stuff. It almost makes me suspicious of these extra schools, like, or what kind of profit are they for profit, or is even if they say they're not, is there some profit being collected here? Like, what's going on? So, essentially, the article says Bernie hates that there are these extra types of schools, which just because there's extra different types of schools out there doesn't mean that there's suddenly great opportunity for our kids to be educated, and there it all comes down to the level of education you're being offered. But essentially, this article is just arguing that Bernie wants everything to just be one way, and that is anti-American, and that it's racist, because he wants a system like that. Therefore, it's exclusionary, left and right, which in and of itself is not. That's another broken argument. Because if you have one specific educational system, that doesn't necessarily mean it's exclusive, especially if the objective is to be all-inclusive. But before I get carried away, I'm going to come back to you. I'm just going to stop right here and then come right back after I've actually looked up what Bernie says and then compare that with what this Fox article is implying about him, because something tells me I'm not getting the full story. Anyway, I'll be right back. Alright, hey everybody, Steve back with you. I had to relocate to the side room that has... I'm sorry, when I do these at home, this is sometimes going to be a reoccurring thing. This, like, heatery... I don't know, it's some kind of air... I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's in the house. It ain't my home, I'm just living in it, So, my apologies. It's almost 80 degrees outside. But down here it's pretty cold, and this room's a little bit warmer, and I was getting a tad bit chilly. So I went to, here we go. So this is a decent amount of information. So I'm trying to figure out, well, what is Bernie actually saying about education? So I went to BernieSanders.com, because if there's any place you're going to find what Bernie's trying to go for, it's going to be there. And under all of his sections about various different issues, the one that I feel closest applies to the situation, because obviously he talks about college education, but his section is reinvest in public education and teachers. So obviously that's, the more, pre-college education, which it seems like is the focus of this article. So there's a Bernie comment at the start, but then below it, there's information. So here's what it says on Bernie's, Bernie.com about this issue. Alright, so there's actually a good deal of information here, so let's hunker down and get to it, and let's see how Bernie Sanders is all wrong for our public education. So there's an intro talking about 60 years, today more than 60 years after Brown versus Board of Education. President Johnson signed the Elementary Secondary Education Act. Poor minority students are still not afforded the same educations as their wealthier and often whiter counterparts. Not going to argue against that. How can you? I'm running for president to restore the promise that every child, regardless of his or her background, has the right to high-quality public education. Equality for all. What a concept. What a guy. Growing inequality is both the cause and effect of our nation's desperately underfunded public school system. Yeah, thank you, Trump. Many public schools are severely racially segregated, in some parts of the country worse than before the Brown decision. Now, obviously, I don't have the specific information to validate that, but it would not surprise me if that's the case with where we're at now. So I mean, there's a bit here where he's talking about, he's just generally expressing, where our educational system is at. And that's good, but that's not what I'm after. Is what does he want? What is his objectives if elected president in terms of dealing with the educational system? Because they're saying he's he wants everything just one thing. He says with the Fox News article saying, so I want to see if that's validated here, where literally it's his website speaking for him. Here we go. So there's a succession of bullet points for what he wants. And look at this, the very first bullet point. Again, they say Bernie is anti-charter school, all these other schools like it. Well, if that's the case, if Bernie just wants to get rid of all those, why is the first bullet point under the concept of his plans for education, why does it say we must make sure that charter schools are accountable, transparent, and truly serve the needs of disadvantaged children, not Wall Street billionaire investors and other private interests? That kind of sounds to me like he's not anti-charter school. Because he's saying under his plan, we need to make sure charter schools are doing this. Well, if he wants to get rid of them, then why does he want to make sure they're doing things? And this is exactly what's mentioned in the Fox News article. I've already fucking just blown their whole article up. And they say in the article, they're like, he calls for these. Actually, I want to go back and see the exact comment that was said. Here we go. Sanders' tirades about charter transparency, regulation, and accountability are both misinformed and counterproductive. Well, all it says on his system or on his site is we just need to make sure that charter schools are accountable and transparent. He didn't say flat out they're not, which I'm sure not all of them are entirely transparent. But they're talking about his rambling tirades. Literally, that's all it says about the concept of charter schools having accountability and transparency is they need to have that. That's all it says here. And they made it like they used that in their article to make it like it's a rambling fucking tirade. And like he was using that to say he's anti-charter school. And it says right here. He just wants them to do that. He wants to make sure that happens. And I'm sure it doesn't happen in every case. And he wants it to happen in every case. That is a good thing. That is not anti-charter school. That is not a tirade. God, it literally took the first bullet point for me to blow that whole thing out of the water. So already we've shown that Bernie is not anti-charter school. He's not anti-alternative schools to just our general public school. But he probably wants to make that a lot better and a lot more all-encompassing, and especially more racially encompassing. Those are good things, and you're a damn idiot if you don't agree with that. God, I couldn't even get through the first bullet point before that happened. Anyway, let's continue, because maybe there's something else in here that's horrible, I guess. Next bullet point. We must ensure that a handful of billionaires don't determine education policy for our nation's children. Absolutely. What kind of history are those sons of bitches going to teach us? You know, they say us white folk are bad, but where would the world be without us? Without us rich white folk? I don't know, but I'm sure at least certain aspects of our well-being in society would be better. How dare you? We will oppose the Betsy DeVoe, style privatization of our nation's schools and will not allow public resources to be drained from public schools. Positive. Betsy DeVoe is a moron who can't even finish a sentence. I said it every time I reference Betsy DeVoe because it's true. Every time I see her being interviewed, giving testimony on something, she's always like, "Oh, yeah, well, yes, we are." I was like, did you forget to read your notes, your bullshit cliff notes before your interview? So that's a positive thing, because Trump and DeVoe are just murdering our educational system, and that is ongoing. I heard just recently they're planning on making even more cuts. Just make our kids just as dumb as humanly possible. Next bullet point. We must guarantee childcare and universal pre-kindergarten for every child in America to help level the playing field, create new and good jobs, and enable parents more easily balance the demands of work and home. Yeah, so I mean, essentially what he's saying there is that we need to allow options in relation to our educational system, preschool related stuff, and just available childcare for parents. You know, when their kids are young, leading into them going to kindergarten, because, you know, daycares and babysitters are freaking expensive in this day and age. And we're in a position in America where parents can't really, I mean, unless one of you's got a real good job, a lot of people can't afford to have parents just have one of the parents stay home while the other works anymore. So he used the term universal, which makes me think this is going to be something that's just becomes part of the available, it becomes available in the educational system, is that parents will be able to have covered child care, or, you know, someone to watch over their children when they're unable to. Creating jobs for people to do that, and allowing the parents to balance the demands of work and home. You know, parents can go to work without feeling like they're spending half of what they're making that day just having someone watch over their kid. So I definitely support that if it's a functional system. We must increase pay for public school teachers so that their salary is commensurate with their importance to society, and we must invest in high quality ongoing professional development and cancel teacher-student debt. Absolutely. If there's teachers out there, they absolutely should have their student debt canceled. That's ridiculous. They're educators now. They shouldn't have to be paying off debt for when they were getting educated. And I'm just going to say right now, there's a lot of bad teachers out there. There are a lot of bureaucratic scum who got the job because they needed a job, and hey, I got an educational degree and I know a lot about this shit subject, whatever. There's a lot of teachers that don't deserve an increase in pay because they suck at their job and should be fired. I've had some of those teachers. But that is certainly not the majority. And, you know, it is true that a lot of teachers, they end up, you know, putting their own money into certain things related to their class. That's, you know, money they're getting paid that's just going right back. And I know Bernie came out, and I think he said he wants... I don't know if there is a minimum or what that minimum is right now, but I think Bernie just came out and said he wants, he's pushing for a minimum $60,000 a year salary for teachers. So even, you know, the poorest educators are still making $60K a year, which that's pretty good money. That's 5 times what I made last year. Well, roughly. All right, so you see, it's not just education for the kids, it's making the lives of the parents and the educators easier. If the parents have an easier go of it, they're going to hopefully, not guarantee, but they're going to hopefully be better parents because they're not going to be as stressed. If you pay the teachers a better wage, something that's a little bit more livable, even though I think $60K is definitely a good chunk of change. It may not be enough for some, but it's definitely a good starting point. I'd gladly take any job that offered me $60K a year at this point, even if I had to bust my ass the whole time. But if you give the teachers pay that puts them into a more comfortable situation, then they can relax a little bit more. They can be more focused on their job, focused on their purpose of being educators, and not having, we can say what we want about how we need to leave all our problems outside when we go to work. Well, that's horse shit. All right? If you're stressed to the extreme, if you're a teacher, you're stressed beyond reason, you got bills coming, you're not making enough money, you don't know if you're going to make your mortgage payment, you got this pipe burst in your bathroom, you're stressed, you haven't finished grading these papers because you're going like 80 hours a week, that is not the state that teachers should have to be living in the society when they're trying to educate the young. We wonder why teachers snap and lose their mind every now and then. Well, wouldn't you? If you were being stretched that thin? Obviously, every teacher's story is different, but see, that's the thing that I'm already taking away from this is, yes, we need to make the best educational system possible, open and all-encompassing, so that children can get the best education they can, regardless of what they want to be, their race, their gender, their color, all of that stuff. But it's also about improving the quality of life for the parents of those children. So hopefully when those kids get their good education and go home, they have a better home environment to go home to. Now granted, that's never a given. Some parents are just shit, and no matter what you give them, they're going to stay shit parents. Making a teacher's life easier isn't necessarily going to make them a better teacher. But these are all steps in the direction of trying to make everybody's lives a little bit easier to improve the quality of life. Isn't that what politicians at heart are supposed to be trying to do? Is improving the quality of life in our country. Granted, none of them ever actually do it. But here's Bernie saying, yeah, we need to help the kids. We also need to help the parents and the educators so that everybody is a positive. The children are being better educated, and that's positively reflecting back to their parents, who their parents are having an easier go of it, so their parents' positivity is reflecting back to them. And then, the quality of the teacher's ability to do their job is improved, so the kids like him or her more, and then that teacher likes their students more, and there's just positive re-influence all through the system. It's like oil shooting through a well-oiled machine, essentially is what it is. Next bullet point. We must increase pay. Oh, wait, never mind. That's the public teachers' increased pay. There's only 2 bullet points left here. We must protect the tenure system for public school teachers and combat attacks on collective bargaining by corporate profiteers. So essentially, if a teacher puts in their dues and should be tenured, don't screw them in the ass right at the end just to save yourself a little bit of money or to save yourself the power that you want to have over that person. I totally agree with that, especially if a teacher has really put in their dues. Now I'm getting too hot, but I'm almost done. Last bullet point. We must put an end to high-stakes testing and, quote, teaching to the test, so that our students have a more fulfilling educational life and our teachers are afforded professional respect. So I think what he's talking about there primarily, there's more, but he's talking about standardized testing. And I remember right after I graduated high school, there was a big push in Oregon to push standardized testing. And I remember my film teacher just seething. She would go to these meetings and say, what the F is wrong with you people? And then these lunatics would just, come at her. These people that had, a financial investment in this. It was going to benefit them. So who gives a shit what it does the educators? And standardized tests, essentially, they run you in, they run you out. You're just taking this general test that shows you've had general accumulation of knowledge, so they can send you out there and you can work all these shitty part-time jobs, because over the last 20 years, they talk about a job market growing. Well, what kind of jobs are they? Most of the job growth is shitty, jobs that you're lucky if you're making minimum wage or up to 15 an hour. So woohoo, job market's improving. They're trying to turn the education system into this just assembly line where you're just running kids through. You pass the test, all right, go through. Move on. Good luck to you. but you're not having any refined education. You're not having a thirst for knowledge. They don't want us educated. Politicians in this country do not want us educated, because then we start understanding the bullshit they're doing better. We're able, even if we're not masters of politics, the more we're educated, the more we're able to deduce what's going on in the world around us. And the more we're able to see through the nonsense. And that scares the hell out of them. So of course they want to dumb down education. They want to keep us a bunch of dumb peasant workers. And that's literally what it says in terms of what Bernie Sanders is advocating. There's one point that even relates to charter schools and other schools. And he doesn't say one thing there about wanting to break that system apart or wanting everything to just be one system. Based on what it says right here on Bernie's site, which whether it's what he's actually going to do or not, this is what he is saying. So this is the information that I and this dumbass who wrote this Fox News article, this is the information that we have to go on. And that Fox News thing was just a blithering, unsubstantiated rant. No wonder now. This is what I thought was going to happen. When I went back and looked at, when I pulled up Bernie's plan and was looking at it, and I was like, I bet you $1 million that Fox News, it's Fox News, what do you expect? But I was just like, I guarantee you that's going to be full of shit. Because this makes Bernie sound like so much not what he is, which is all-encompassing. So why would he narrow our educational system down so much, which would deplete, as the Fox News article says, deplete opportunities for people? Everything in here is about making the educational system better and more equal and making the quality of life of the students, their parents, and the teachers better. That is fantastic. And it's what we need right now more than ever. All right? Before they keep pushing this bullshit agenda to try to keep our kids dumb. Anyway, then the end of it is, after the points, this last little thing. We must guarantee children with disabilities an equal right to high-quality education and increase funding for programs that combat racial segregation and unfair disciplinary practices that disproportionately affect students of color. And then it's all done. That's the whole bowl of wax right there, as it were. So literally, one bullet point even references what is talked about in the article. And that article, there's only that one little part where he talks about wanting transparency and accountability for other schools like charter schools. He not once says he wants to get rid of them. Yet that's what that article infers. It's a complete slandering lie. And they call it a tirade when literally what they wrote in referencing Bernie's comments about what he wants for charter schools, what they say in response to it is longer than what Bernie wrote. So how is what he's saying a tirade? There's no end to what these morons will go to. They will flat out lie, which is what this article did. It is a flat out lie, misrepresentation about Bernie's stance on education. And I just read to you the bullet points specifically directly off of his website, like where are you going to find, a more direct representation of what Bernie says he wants to do. And every single point on there was good and positive. Every single one. It was about being all-encompassing and creating equality and improving the quality of education and not dumbing it down to underfunded schools and standardized testing horseshit so these kids come out not knowing and in many cases not caring about the world around them. All right? You don't want to go to school again after you graduate high school. Do what you do. You don't have to, stay, in the educational system for the rest of your life to have a thirst for knowledge, a desire to grow, a desire to learn, a desire to understand things that you either didn't really have the opportunity to when you were in the school system, or just, you got out of the system and you realize there's all these things I still haven't learned and discovered yet about myself and about the world around me. I mean, here I have a YouTube channel that's practically dedicated to the history of the Portland area. And of course I do stuff like this and talk about what's going on in the present day. And obviously I'm very invested in the discussion of Bernie Sanders and his presidential candidacy, so I got that going on as well. And, you know, each time I read one of these articles, I'm learning a little bit more about how the media is behaving towards Bernie. And I'm given the opportunity to learn a little bit more about where Bernie stands on the issues and what he wants. It's all right there on his website, bullet pointed, set out there for you so you can go there and actually read it and see what he's actually saying about what he wants to do for this country. Because apparently, if you look at a news article that's going to talk about it, they're just going to lie right to your damn face. Granted, it's not like Fox News has never lied before, but still, it's not like just because it's a Fox News article, that's the determining factor. Like, oh, if it was written by someone who wrote for this paper or this online site or this other news channel, website, whatever, that suddenly they wouldn't be as deceptive, because they're all doing it. All the news channels are doing it. All the media outlets are doing it. So there, I literally took, like, I found the answer in like less than 5 minutes to show that this Fox News thing was horseshit, and yet it's being sent out there. It's coming in through my Google feed telling me, hey, he doesn't give a shit. I'm not going to explain to you why, because we find out that the article's full of shit and they don't have a reason why, because there is none. It literally is a whole thing done based around one bullet point of Bernie's plan. I'm waiting for that. I want the full series, Fox News. I want you to attack every bullet point on his plan and tell me why it's so bad. Tell me why teachers don't deserve pay. Tell me why parents shouldn't have better care options for their kids. Tell me why we should rob the public schools blind of all their funding. Really promote that shit to me. Or better yet, tell me that that's what Bernie really wants. And hey, I'm dumb enough to not actually go find the information for myself. I'll just blindly believe you, Fox News, and then it'll obviously be pretty clear. Bernie's a bad candidate. I should have known all along. Absolutely insane. And literally, all I had to do was pull up his website, click on the, there's literally a list of links related to all these different issues. Found the one related to public education, schooling, stuff like that. Clicked on it, went right through it, boom. Found a counterbalancing point to that whole dumbass article. It took me like 2 minutes to pull it, to find it. It's really that easy sometimes. If someone says Bernie supports this and that's a bunch of crap, go to Bernie's site. It's berniesanders.com. It's the easiest domain name to remember, or it's the easiest website in the world to remember. If you want to look up information about what Bernie actually says he supports, because Lord knows the news is going to misrepresent him, go there and find the answers for yourself. It'll take you 2 minutes. And you'll probably discover most of the time, oh, they're actually full of crap and this isn't what he said. But of course, they're banking on the fact that we're lazy Americans who aren't going to research and try to validate or invalidate what we're hearing in the news for ourselves. So we just kind of close up, and next thing you know, we're hearing a lot of bad stuff about Bernie Sanders, and it makes us think, oh, that's that Bernie guy. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of bad stuff about him. So I don't know if I trust him. I'm voting for Biden. Man, did you see him when he was vice president? Man, he was a funny-ass son of a bitch. I love Joe. Yeah, go fucking Biden. Yeah, absolutely, no question. That's how people think. It's insane. It's legitimate insanity. People not paying attention to what's going on around them, not paying attention to the candidates that are going to affect the next 4 years of their lives, and then they bitch about how, nothing ever gets fixed, nothing ever gets better. Well, quit voting for the same stupid shit candidates and maybe things will actually change and go a new direction. You're being insane. You're doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a new result. That is the definition of insanity in the dictionary. Look it up if you haven't. All right? Just, again, all of these, at the end, it comes down to educate yourself a little before you vote. And maybe at the end you'll find out you don't like Bernie. And that's your journey. That's where you come to in the end. Just at least educate yourselves and don't just vote for someone because you've heard of them before. And sure as hell don't trust the media. Bernie Sanders isn't the only thing in the world that this media is lying to us tooth and nail about. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to my rant, but this is just another example of the misrepresentation of this guy. Why is the media trying so hard to misrepresent Bernie Sanders? Could it possibly be that he's actually the right guy for the job? I think so. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment if you, well, again, I cut off comments for these. If you want to comment on me, I have a Goats for Bernie page on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. You can comment on other videos if you want to get in contact with me. I don't want a bunch of idiots coming on here and rambling their anti-Bernie crap to me. It's really nauseating to listen to. But anyway, thanks again for listening. And till next time, this is Steve. Have a wonderful day.